Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're heading to Russia.
Russia?
Yeah, St. Petersburg specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some sources that you sent us. Yeah, there's the typical like FlightNHotels.com stuff with tips on flights and places to stay.
Yeah.
But there's this really in-depth article about the city itself that I think is going to give us a lot to talk about.
Looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that stood out right away is they call St. Petersburg the Venice of the North.
Have you been?
I haven't been either, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's built on islands.
Yeah.
And get this, they have even more bridges than Venice.
Wow, that's a lot of bridges.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And there's this crazy thing called the amber room, like a whole room made of amber.
I've heard of that. Is it really all amber?
That's what we're going to find out, right?
So, go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. So I guess we should start with like the basics. You know, St. Peter's, it wasn't always this grand city, was it?
No, not at all.
So how did it all begin?
Well, it really started as this vision Tsar Peter the Great had back in the 18th century.
Okay, Tsar Peter the Great.
Yeah. He wanted to create what he called a window to Europe, this symbol of Russia's connection to the West.
Okay, so he basically plopped this magnificent city right in the middle of a swamp and said, hey, Russia's here. Deal with it.
Pretty much. I mean, it was incredibly ambitious.
That's an understatement. And
Yeah.
do you think that window to Europe thing still holds true today?
Absolutely. And that ambition, you know, it echoes through the city's whole history, right? From being this imperial capital to the crucible of revolution.
Yeah, you can't talk about St. Petersburg without talking about the revolution.
Exactly. And that tension between tradition and change, you can still feel it when you're there.
It's like history is built into the walls.
It really is.
So let's talk about some of those echoes of history and walk through some of the landmarks.
Yeah, good idea.
The article mentions the Hermitage Museum.
Oh, of course, everyone's heard of the Hermitage.
Yeah, we all know it's massive. It's world-renowned.
It's one of the most famous museums in the world.
Exactly. But what I found fascinating is it started as Catherine the Great's personal art collection.
Isn't it wild?
It's like, hey, I like art. Let's just make a museum.
It's a bit more complicated than that, I think, but yeah.
I'm sure, but still. And now it's got like masterpieces from Da Vinci to Michelangelo.
Yeah, you can find Da Vinci's Madonna Litta there, that tender portrayal of the Virgin Mary.
Oh, yeah.
And Michelangelo's sculptures, too. They capture this raw power of the human form.
Wow. And to think it's all housed in what was once a palace.
I know, right? It just adds this whole other layer to the experience.
It's like art and history colliding.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing place.
So then there's the Peter and Paul Fortress.
It
It seems to have like a dual purpose protection, but also this really grand burial ground.
really embodies that duality. It was meant to defend the city,
Right.
but then it became the final resting place for Russian czars.
So it has this layer of historical significance on top of being a fortress.
Exactly, and visually, that golden spire of the Peter and Paul Cathedral, it just dominates the skyline.
Yeah, I saw pictures. It's pretty striking.
It's this constant reminder of the city's past.
And speaking of visually stunning, the article mentions the Catherine Palace.
Oh, the Catherine Palace, pure opulence.
Right. We're talking Rococo style, all that elaborate ornamentation and curves.
And asymmetry, too.
Yeah, asymmetry. But the real showstopper has got to be the amber room, a whole room crafted from amber.
Can you imagine?
What's the story behind that?
So it was a gift to Tsar Peter the Great, but get this, it was looted during World War II.
No way.
Yeah, it was lost for decades.
Wow.
And what you see today is this painstaking reconstruction completed in 2003.
So is it really all amber, or is that like an exaggeration?
Well, most of it is made from amber panels, but they did use other materials too, you know, like mirrors and gold leaf.
Oh, okay. So it's not 100% amber, but still,
It's pretty darn close.
I bet it's just dazzling.
It really is.
And then there's this church with a crazy name, the Church of the Savior Unspilled Blood.
Wow. Yeah, that's a mouthful.
I know. Why is it called that?
Well, it was built on the very spot where Tsar Alexander II was assassinated in 1881.
Oh, wow. So it's literally built on spilled blood.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, but the church itself is visually stunning.
Yeah, I saw pictures. It's those colorful onion domes that you always see in pictures of Russia.
Exactly. And inside, it's covered in these intricate mosaics.
What kind of mosaics?
They depict biblical scenes and historical events.
So it's like a giant illustrated storybook.
It really is.
You learn something new every day.
That's what we're here for, right?
Right. So the article also talked about Nevsky Prospect, calling it the pulse of the city. What makes it so special?
Well, Nevsky Prospect is more than just a street, you know. It's the heart of St. Petersburg.
Okay.
And you'll find everything there. Historic landmarks like Kazan Cathedral.
Kazan Cathedral?
Yeah, it's got this grand colonnade, and then there's the Anichkov Bridge adorned with these famous horse sculptures.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that bridge.
Yeah, it's iconic. And there's just this mix of historical grandeur and modern life. You know, it's buzzing with energy.
So we've touched on the Venice comparison a bit, but just how many bridges are we talking about here?
Over 300.
300 bridges.
Yeah, crisscrossing the city's canals and rivers.
Wow. They really take their water feature seriously.
They do, and it's not just the quantity, it's how they're integrated into the city's design.
Right.
They reflect the architecture, they add this layer of tranquility to the urban landscape.
So what would you recommend for someone who wants to experience St. Petersburg's beauty from a unique perspective?
A canal tour, for sure. It's a must-do.
Okay, so we've explored some historical landmarks, but St. Petersburg is obviously a city steeped in art and culture.
Oh, absolutely.
What else stands out beyond the obvious, besides the Hermitage?
Well, the Mariinsky Theater is renowned for its ballet and opera.
I've heard of the Mariinsky.
Yeah, especially the Russian classics like Swan Lake and the Nutcracker.
Oh, yeah, I love the Nutcracker.
They're performed by some of the most talented dancers in the world. Wow.
It's a truly immersive experience.
The Mariinsky definitely has a reputation.
It does.
And the article also mentioned the Russian Museum. How does that compare to the Hermitage?
So the Hermitage offers like a global perspective on art history, but the Russian Museum dives deep into the heart of Russian art.
So it's like a companion piece to the Hermitage.
You could say that. It's a wonderful complement. You can trace the evolution of Russian artistic expression.
From what to what?
From ancient icons to avant-garde movements.
So it's the whole spectrum.
Exactly.
Okay, now for something completely different, there's the Fabergé Museum.
Ah, yes.
Eggs and jewelry.
Right.
What comes to mind when you think of Fabergé?
Opulence, meticulous craftsmanship. The Fabergé Museum houses this incredible collection of these intricate objects.
Including those famous imperial Easter eggs, right?
Exactly. And they're not just decorative pieces. They're these miniature masterpieces, combining precious metals, gemstones, enamel work.
Wow.
Each egg tells a story and offers this glimpse into this world of luxury that belonged to the czars. It sounds like a very specific niche, but fascinating nonetheless.
It really is.
Now, for those of us who might be more budget conscious, FlightNHotels.com offers some options to make a trip to St. Petersburg a reality.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
I'm always looking for a good deal, and it sounds like this site helps you find the best prices on flights and hotels.
What I appreciate about FlightNHotels is that it lets you compare prices from multiple airlines.
That's helpful.
It is, and you can find the most convenient route you know. Especially helpful for someone trying to maximize their time in the city.
Right, you don't want to waste time with layovers and stuff.
Exactly, and they even offer these travel packages.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Which can streamline your planning and potentially save you money.
It sounds like a valuable resource for anyone planning a trip.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
St. Petersburg is clearly more than just a pretty city.
It's a living testament to Russian history, art, and culture.
And its unique geography plays a big part in shaping its identity.
Absolutely. That's something we need to delve into more.
Yeah, let's talk about that more so before we dive deeper. I want to consider the impact of St. Petersburg's geography. It's a city built on islands shaped by water, and that must have influenced its development in some pretty fascinating ways.
Oh yeah, definitely imagine the challenges and opportunities presented by that environment.
Yeah, how did the water impact the city's defense, its trade, even its cultural expression?
All great questions that we'll explore as we continue our deep dive.
We were just talking about St. Petersburg's unique geography built on islands shaped by water.
Yeah, a city where rivers and canals are just as important as the streets.
Right, exactly. And that relationship with the water must have really influenced its history and cultural identity. Like, what comes to mind for you?
Well, think about times of conflict. The water could be both a barrier and a lifeline.
Yeah, you're right, like a natural defense against invaders.
Exactly, but it also makes the city vulnerable to blockades.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And it's not just about defense. The water was crucial for trade.
Makes sense, a port city.
Exactly. Connecting St. Petersburg to the rest of the world, allowing it to flourish as a port city and a center for cultural exchange.
So it really is woven into the fabric of the city.
Precisely. And you even see it reflected in the city's art and literature.
Oh yeah, like how so?
Think of the poets and painters who've been inspired by the Neva River, the canals, that ever-changing light reflecting off the water.
Yeah, it's a very visual city, for sure. So much to uncover. And speaking of uncovering the article, mention that St. Petersburg celebrates the arts in so many forms.
It does.
But for a visitor, how can you really immerse yourself in that artistic spirit, beyond just going to a museum?
That's where the magic of St. Petersburg comes alive.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine watching a ballet at the Mariinsky Theater.
Mariinsky, yeah.
A place steeped in history, renowned for its performances.
Okay.
You're not just watching a show, you're experiencing a tradition.
A tradition that's been honed over centuries.
Exactly.
It's like you're part of this living legacy.
You are.
Witnessing the evolution of art in this amazing space.
And for opera lovers, the Mariinsky offers breathtaking performances too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Transporting you to another world through music and storytelling.
So we've got ballet, we've got opera. But what about for people who aren't really into the classical arts?
Oh, there's plenty for them too.
Like what?
St. Petersburg has this vibrant art scene, countless galleries showcasing experimental works.
Oh, cool. So contemporary stuff?
Yeah, contemporary artists pushing the boundaries of creativity.
That's what I like to hear, and music.
Oh, and for music lovers, you'll find every kind of live music venue imaginable.
Okay, give me some examples.
Intimate jazz clubs, larger spaces, hosting everything from rock to electronic music.
So you could find some pretty cool underground spots, I bet.
Absolutely, you just have to know where to look.
But what about something that's uniquely St. Petersburg? An experience you can't find anywhere else.
Have you ever heard of the White Nights Festival?
White Nights Festival.
Yeah, it's this celebration during the summer solstice when the sky never fully gets dark. It's true, and the city just comes alive, Outdoor concerts, theatrical performances, this sense of joyous revelry.
That sounds amazing.
It's contagious.
A celebration of light and energy.
Exactly, capturing that unique feeling of endless summer nights.
And it really speaks to how St. Petersburg embraces its unique location.
Doesn't it?
It really does. So we keep coming back to this idea of the city being built on islands. How does that actually affect the city's layout and design?
Well, think about the challenges of building on water. You have to be innovative.
Right, with foundations, with bridges.
With how you connect different parts of the city.
So the water kind of forced them to be more creative.
Exactly. And you see that creativity reflected in the architecture, the canals, even how people move about.
I bet you're constantly aware of the water.
You're crossing bridges, seeing reflections, feeling the breeze coming off the river.
Yeah, like it sets the pace of the city almost.
It creates this unique atmosphere, a city that's both grand and intimate, bustling and tranquil.
Those contrasting elements, it's interesting how they coexist.
It is.
And it makes me think back to FlightNHotels and their emphasis on finding deals for a city that's so steeped in history and grandeur. Is it actually affordable?
It's a great question, and it speaks to the city's accessibility.
Okay, so you're saying it is.
Yes, you have the palaces and high-end experiences, but there's also a thriving street food scene, affordable public transportation.
So you can experience the city without spending a fortune.
You can wander through parks and gardens, admire the architecture, soak in the atmosphere.
I like the sound of that. And what about those travel packages that FlightNHotels offers? How do they enhance a trip to St. Petersburg?
Oh, they're great for travelers who want a more curated experience, Or maybe they don't want to plan every detail.
Yeah, I can see that being helpful.
They might include guided tours of historical sites like the Peter and Paul Fortress or the Catherine Palace.
Guided tours led by experts.
Good. Yeah, people who can provide historical context and insights.
You'd get so much more out of it that way.
You would, and the packages might also include tickets to performances at the Mariinsky Theater.
So you wouldn't miss out on the cultural highlights.
That's the idea.
Sounds like they really take the stress out of planning.
They do, and they can be tailored to different interests.
Oh, so it's not one size fits all.
Not at all. Whether you're a history buff, an art enthusiast, or someone who just wants to soak in the city's atmosphere.
So it's a personalized approach to travel planning.
Exactly. And they often include transportation within the city.
Which can be a lifesaver.
It makes it easy to get around and explore.
It's like having a local guide in your pocket.
That's a great way to put it, helping you navigate and discover hidden gems.
I love that. So we've talked about the history, the art and culture, the practicalities of travel, and the influence of water. What other surprises does St. Petersburg hold?
Oh, there are plenty more surprises in store.
So many layers to this city, huh? From grand palaces to these intimate canals. And We've talked about those affordable adventures, but also like curated experiences too.
It really does feel like there's something for everyone.
That's the sense I'm getting. It's just captivating. And speaking of captivating, I want to go back to that comparison to Venice for a sec.
Okay, the Venice of the North.
Yeah, it's an analogy that keeps coming up, but what makes it so enduring? I mean, I get the surface level stuff, right? The canals, the bridges, that romantic vibe.
Right.
But is there something deeper?
It's not just about the water, although obviously that's a big part of it.
Right.
But both cities, both St. Petersburg and Venice, they were these ambitious projects driven by this desire to connect with Europe.
To like prove themselves.
Yeah, to assert their place on the world stage.
And they were both built on water, shaped by trade.
Shaped by cultural exchange. And they both became these centers of art and innovation.
And indulgence, let's be honest.
And a little bit of indulgence, yeah.
So it's like a shared spirit more than just a visual thing.
It's that ambition, that cultural fusion.
They both looked outward.
Yeah.
Embraced new ideas.
Exactly. And I think that gets lost sometimes when we just focus on how they look.
Yeah. It's the story behind it. The drive to create something extraordinary.
That's what connects them.
Across time and geography. It's pretty cool when you think about it. And speaking of history, the article touched on St. Petersburg's turbulent past.
Yeah.
Its role in the Russian Revolution.
Yeah, that was a defining moment.
But how much of that is actually visible today for a visitor?
It's interesting because while those grand palaces and the imperial splendor are definitely prominent,
right,
you can also find these traces of the revolution woven into the city.
Oh, like how?
There are museums dedicated to the events of 1917.
Okay.
Monuments to key figures, and even some former revolutionary headquarters that are now open to the public.
Wow, so you could really feel that history.
You can walk the same streets where revolutionaries marched, visit the Winter Palace where the Tsar was overthrown.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's a reminder that the past is never really past.
It shapes the present.
It does in ways we might not even realize.
It makes you want to dig deeper. Uncover those hidden layers.
It does.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. And if there's one thing you want our listeners to take away from exploring St. Petersburg, what would it be?
I'd really encourage them to go beyond just the typical tourist experience, really immerse themselves in the city's unique atmosphere.
Get off the beaten path a little.
Exactly. Explore the hidden courtyards, wander through those literary cafes.
Yeah, like the ones Dostoevsky hung out in.
Yes. And talk to the locals,
That's always a good tip. Get the real inside scoop.
It is. Embrace the unexpected. Let the city reveal itself to you.
And of course, use those resources like FlightNHotels to make it happen.
Yeah, they can help you find those deals on flights and accommodations.
Handle the logistics while you soak up the cultural riches.
Exactly.
Well, we've come to the end of another deep dive, and I hope you've gained a new appreciation for this amazing city.
Me too. It's a city that invites exploration, reflection, and a sense of wonder.
And we encourage you to embark on your own journey of discovery.
Experience the magic of St. Petersburg for yourself.
Until next time, keep diving.